Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the Banana Splits movie. Between the modern Hollywood idea that IP is king and that concept movies rule B cinema, we have the Banana Splits movie. A really weird B on-demand movie only kind of renegade version of what modern entertainment is. And I sort of like that about it. You could honestly say, like, since so many major corporations love intellectual property and you have to have IP, you have to have these brands and you have to use them, Warner Brothers has put this in the most renegade way humanly possible to kind of find a way to mine some sort of money out of this and make us talk about it, which I honestly think they did, because how many of us were even making videos or talking about the Banana Splits at all? And it even has a weird story and everything. It is very much I can't believe I saw that movie, but it's not an actual enjoyable good movie. It's kind of the cheap beer of horror. I don't know who came up with that term, but the cheap beer of horror, where like the reason you buy cheap beer is to get drunk and it does like nothing else. There's no taste involved, nothing like that. And if it's not cold, it would just taste like garbage water. Trust me, I know. And this is the King Cobra of movies, basically. This is what the Banana Splits movie is. And I knew that going in. I entirely knew what I was getting. You know, on-demand horror is its own sort of genre in itself. It doesn't get covered by a lot of people. This movie drew a lot more of attention to it because it's the Banana Splits and it's such a wild concept. Let's take the Banana Splits and then instead have them murder people. Also, they're robots, Five Nights at Freddy's and all that. And that's the basic concept. Now, before I get into the plot, I will say there's this whole theory that Warner Brothers was making a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Then they like stopped and then they made this. So everyone's like, is this the leftover ideas from the Five Nights at Freddy's movie? There's nothing verifiable that ever happened. That's just kind of like people put two and two together, which often happens with movie press kind of stuff. But they're basically taking something that's very key into how B cinema and exploitation cinema and grindhouse cinema, which is now evolved into like crappy movies on demand, basically is, in that they basically find an exploitable idea that will get you to see a movie. And they do it because they're like, wait, no one's done this. No one's done biker movies because that's popular. No one's done acid trip movies because acid trips are on everybody's mind. Nobody's done robots and kind of like weird fursuit things like Five Nights at Freddy's movies yet. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie hasn't happened. I know, we'll take that and make a Banana Splits movie. That's just like how these movies are. They kind of realize there's a gap in the marketplace because there is no Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Could that be Warner Brothers' own fault, making it like a weird way to be opportunistic at your corporation's own fallings? Is very true, but there's like nothing to base that on. Also, the idea of Five Nights at Freddy's, concept-wise, these are similar in certain ways, but the actual plot is not. There wasn't a Five Nights at Freddy's TV show kind of thing. So the whole idea, I'm like, maybe they took a few kills or something, but beyond that, I don't really think that's true at all. And there's nothing to back that up, and no one said that. I think this is just people online making a movie story up. It got you to talk about this movie, and it got you to see this movie, and it got a lot of people to see a movie by a lot of these people they wouldn't normally. So it worked the way exploitation and B movies work. So henceforth, it was successful. Banana Splits have had a TV show that runs for 40 to 50 years instead of like 2 seasons in the 70s, and then just got syndicated for 10 years, which Hanna Barbera did very much, which is how Hanna Barbera got rich. Even though this is not by Sid and Marty Krofft, which is often credited to them, they're not really involved. It is by Taft Productions or something. That's why it says Taft Studios. It's a reference to that. Banana Splits have been running for like 50 years. It's this huge institution, or kind of like an outdated institution, but it's still doing well at least. And the Banana Splits are robots in fursuits, and it's not clear if everyone knows this or not, because this movie was made incredibly quickly, which they've admitted to, and it shows. But I mean, do you really want like the really well directed Banana Splits movie? Maybe a little better directed, but they don't explain it. But the whole time they've been robots and they've been running the show, and it's been successful. And this little kid on his birthday has gotten tickets from his mom to go to a taping of the Banana Splits with the whole family. He goes with a bunch of kind of cliche kind of character types, an influencer couple, and then a dadager who's trying to make his daughter a big star for some reason. They go to a taping of the Banana Splits and think they'll meet a producer, which is, I don't really get that one, but that was like the worst plotline. And then, you know, the kid and all that, and then once the Banana Splits find out right before the taping that the vice president of programming, who used to be something else maybe or something, who's been newly appointed, has decided to cancel the Banana Splits because it doesn't fit his vision for the network, because I guess it's doing well and he doesn't want a successful show or something. So he decides to cancel it, and the Banana Splits may have found out, or there was an update or something. Regardless, doesn't matter. They've decided to kill people, and that's like the rest of the movie. There's another caveat I have. Seems to be a lot of people think a certain thing about this movie, and it's like, again, a part of the truth and not actually the truth if you really look into it, which of course I did. This is airing on the Sci-Fi Channel, I believe mid-September or something, and it went on demand and for rent and for Blu-ray and all that stuff in August. It was distributed, the trailer, as like a Sci-Fi Channel movie, going to premiere on Sci-Fi Channel. Sci-Fi Channel's helped promote it. It was not made by the Sci-Fi Channel. It fits in line with all those kind of like cheesy B Sci-Fi Channel kind of movies, but it was actually made by Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers has a particular label. This is interesting, actually. Warner Brothers has a thing called Blue Ribbon Content. And they are also responsible for the Daphne and Velma movie. And their whole idea is to find interesting writers and directors and creative artists to do different things with Warner Brothers IP that they're not doing otherwise, or just basically not using. And Warner Brothers has done that with Hanna Barbera stuff with the comics. I'm not sure if Blue Ribbon Content is responsible for the comics with like the Flintstones, the guy who sat next to us at MomoCon, the first MomoCon, and the other comics they made. And also, you know, the Warner Brothers has some stake in the CW, who makes Riverdale. So they're very much interested in like taking an IP that, you know, will get you in, be like, what? They made like Twin Peaks out of Archie with teens or something, and like get you to at least watch a season, which I did, and be really interested in it. It's basically a way in. And that's basically their business model for this subsidiary under their corporation. They basically loan this out and let the Sci-Fi Channel, which is owned by a completely different company, but whatever, but it fits within their marketability and so forth. So this was not made, this might have been made to premiere on the Sci-Fi Channel. Maybe Sci-Fi like put in a little bit of money, but they're not credited as a production company or anything to do with the creative aspect of it. To my understanding, they're just premiering it. It does fall in line with those kind of movies, but its actual purpose was to take a piece of IP or intellectual property that Warner Brothers had and wasn't using and do something interesting and creative with it. Much like how you see like Batman versus or meets or whatever, the Ninja Turtles, that's like, oh, that's interesting, I will see that. That's like what Warner Brothers does. They like to take properties and make kind of these interesting kind of be ideas with it because they know you'll get excited, and it's another way to make some money. The weird thing about it is, like, normally if like Roger Corman was making this, you'd be like, oh, that's why this is so cheap. Instead, it's a major corporation having a little weird offshoot to make cult things, which, to be honest, not many of those corporations actually do anymore. So I give Warner Brothers actually some credit for that, but I'm also like, couldn't you have just given them a little bit more money, since this has gotten covered so often by so many different things? It's pretty clear there was a lot of interest there, but I'm sure they wanted to keep it low so then we can get the second Banana Splits movie, which this movie does actually set itself up for that. And there has been a Banana Splits movie before, a TV movie called The Banana Splits in Hocus Pocus Park. I kind of knew what I was getting into with this movie. I didn't know all about the Blue Ribbon Content thing and everything like that, but I've seen kind of like a Mystery Science Theater fan. I've seen a lot of B grindhouse kind of movies. I grew up watching a lot of those things. So I kind of like, going into this, I knew like, you know, I can probably, you know, have a beer with this movie and relax and kick back and like have a fun time. And I think this would be a really fun movie to watch with friends. It kind of fits into the whole mold. In the late 2000s, early 2010s, they're really selling cult movies to people as like After Snakes on a Plane. And this falls within that. And I will say they do have some fun with the concept, but this is basically like they're not having as much fun as like, let's say, Josie and the Pussycats does, or the Brady Bunch movies did, or like the Dora the Explorer movie did, where it's like, oh, get it? We took this thing and we brought it into this other thing and it's like weird and stuff. They basically are like, what if we had these guys kill people? That's it. No one knows the Banana Splits that well, which is the kind of funny thing. You have a lot of people talking about this, and it was from people who are really old, but I don't get the impression anyone was that passionate about them. They're sort of a weird property in that they're very of their time. Like, they're very big in the 70s, and they look very 70s, so it's weird to be like, this show is on for 50 years, and I'm like, when were the 70s 50 years? Like, this movie doesn't think about a lot of these small details. It doesn't seem like they had enough time to think about the small details, which I sort of like these kind of ramshackle productions. You got a lot of these B movies that would only play in like certain regions and stuff like that. I know Attack of the Killer Shrews from the 50s was one of those. And Banana Splits plays like one of those kind of movies. You kind of find it endearing because they're like, hey, you guys like made a movie, but you don't find it endearing where you're like, oh, I have to watch this movie. There's a lot of beats that feel like they're from like tons of other horror movies that you've seen a million times before. So it does get rather boring. You know, I sort of like the basic like main plot line more than like, you know, the dadager thing. I really didn't like. The influencer couple, I thought they could have had a little more fun with. Apparently they do, and I didn't recognize it, but I heard through other reviews that they sort of set up all the sets and stuff at the beginning, which was sort of fun. And I don't really know like how much they're playing off of what the Banana Splits are doing, but I like the Wheel of Endings joke. There's a Wheel of Endings apparently on the Banana Splits, and they're like, what's a banana split? He goes, I don't know, they always land on Rock Out. Like, it does feel like they have like some nice ideas. It just feels like this movie didn't like got the basic plot down and they needed a few more drafts. Like, I wouldn't have minded like just write a better movie. I think that's kind of the biggest problem with this is like I didn't expect it to be very well shot. There is one sequence in a ball pit, which I agree is actually like probably the best sequence, the only one they maybe storyboarded or something like that. But the rest of it, it just felt like they were just like kind of like getting it done as quickly as possible. And this movie, it really shows. I do like certain characters, like the mom played by Danny Kind, who I've never heard of before. She was on like a show Working Moms, didn't see it, but I thought she was as good as you're going to be in these kind of movies. She did a good lead performance for like this B movie sort of thing. And Finlay wojtak-hissong, yeah, I don't know how to say his name, but the kid who plays the brother who's really into Banana Splits, he was actually, I thought he like was really trying to do as well as he could. I wish they just focused on them and not had as many plot lines. Like, this movie has like enough issues with it. Like, this movie's not very well made, so it's like trying to tackle all these different things. But I get like the main purpose to have all these people is like to have kills, and I get it. The kills weren't like spectacular or anything like that. You know, I think if I knew the Banana Splits more and you could have played more off of that, but I think even this property knows it's like, I don't know, they have a cart, they have a dumb song, whatever. But I've heard people call this cynical, and things like that. I don't necessarily, because I sort of knew what to expect from this, and I guess maybe I'm cynical in itself. I expected what I got from it. This is kind of like how you would make a Banana Splits movie right now. You, of course, rip off Five Nights at Freddy's, because that's what a B kind of exploitation filmmaker sort of does. And although this director, Danishka Estrahazy, she doesn't feel like a natural kind of B exploitation director, and I don't think she is, and you can sort of tell that, but she does an actual like as good at, you know, a decent job for what these movies are. She's pretty much like an average kind of director, but it's fine for what it is. I also did like the older brother who looked seriously reminded me of Mark Webber in Todd Solondz's storytelling. Like, it felt like that exact performance. I'm sure none of you got that reference, but a few of you did. I appreciate it. This is just kind of like a junky B on-demand movie, and it's basically these junky on-demand movies were what was straight to video, and what before that was drive-through and so forth, and Grindhouse and everything like that. And this plays within that sort of world. If you're expecting anything more than that kind of a movie, you're going to be let down, and I'm sorry, you don't know anything about this type of cinema. It is just a B, crappy, schlocky kind of thing. And I like that Warner Brothers is at least like, if we're going to make those, why don't we use this IP and have some fun with it, and we can be like, hey, did you ever see that Banana Splits horror movie? And then someone will go, yeah, it was fine. And that's about as far as this will really go. There's a lot of weird misconceptions about this movie and why it was made and how it was made and what was going on behind the scenes. But honestly, all of that is probably more interesting to talk about than the movie itself. It's not honestly that good. It's worth a watch. If you're interested in it, it's worth it. You'll go, that was fine. And that's kind of as much as you're going to get from this. I wish they had someone who maybe could spend like an extra month on just pre-production. That just felt like what this movie did. So if they make a sequel, which I will totally see, because I'm at least invested enough in this to just put up with like a crappy on-demand horror movie franchise, I'm totally fine with that, particularly if you've decided to do this with the Banana Splits. That's cool. I'd love to hear from a Banana Splits fan who like hates or likes, or a Banana Splits fan who's actually has an opinion on this. I'd be interested. But I would like them to play with maybe more of the iconography or understand like what references are in there, as that's probably not a video anyone will make, but I would be interested to watch it if they did. I had enough fun with this as kind of just like a fun junky sort of thing, and then it's over and you go, cool, neat. And that's sort of it with the banana splits. Kind of like culturally, how we all kind of did that with the banana splits. We're like, we're fine with them entertaining us. We had a good time while they were doing it. But I don't think any of us really remembered or had much of an impression on it. It was just a good time we spent together, and then we moved on and changed the channel. So if you've seen the Banana Splits movie and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.